I'm mass producing neural networks over here. One of them is a model, and the other one just tore up my shoe. This is Building Sentience, and today we're going to talk about why training a puppy is disturbingly similar to training a machine learning model. And I do mean disturbing. There's the training, sit, down, stay, leave it. All of these tiny little incremental steps that hopefully get you to the point of a well-trained dog. And the other night, while she was aggressively shredding a shoe I actually liked, I had this dawning realization that I've done all of this before. Not the puppy part, don't get me wrong. I haven't had a puppy in 15 years. But the training part, the overfitting, the trying to expose your model to things. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It was quite literally everywhere. Let me explain. And honestly, the deeper I went with this, the more unsettling the parallels became. When you train a puppy or a dog or anything really, you're trying to reinforce desired behaviors with a reward, be that praise or treats or toys, etc., and ignoring or redirecting less than desired behavior, like that aforementioned chewing. Over time, the puppy's brain strengthens the neural pathways of the behaviors that are being reinforced and weakens the pathways of the ones that aren't. If this sounds familiar, that's because it is. This is just gradient descent. In machine learning, gradient descent adjusts the weights of connections in order to reach some desired result. The treat, in this scenario, is a reduced loss function. The bad behavior that we're trying to redirect from is a high loss score. The network is doing the same thing the puppy's brain is doing in some high-level imitation, reinforcing pathways that produce better outputs to get more treats. If you're not a tech person, you might be thinking, okay, that's a super fun metaphor. But it's not a metaphor. And no matter how you want to look at it, these are fundamentally the same mechanism. The math is kind of identical. My puppy's brain and some machine learning algorithms learn using the same fundamental principles, which is why we refer to these algorithms as learning. It's not just made up. You're not a tech person, but you know a little bit about machine learning and AI, and you hate it. Then you might be thinking, but that's not how we learn, because we're not math models and it's not actually learning at all. I would like to lightly push back on this, because this is actually how we learn. This is why some algorithms are called neural networks, because yes, on a much smaller scale, they are imitating the way that our brains work. We can even model our own reward functions. What do you think dopamine is for? It's a driver of reinforcement learning in the brain. Dopamine doesn't just feel good, it is our training currency. Now we can, of course, philosophically agree on the fact that machine learning models aren't learning in the same way that we conceptualize learning. I mean, probably not. But at a fundamental level, you have to understand that we can also be distilled into math. Everything kind of can. That's the point of math. But that conversation is for another day, because during this realization, I noticed something that was even weirder. My puppy's in the teething stage. She's chewing on everything. My favorite sweater, her own harness, books, which feels really freaking personal. Not at all because she's being bad on purpose, but because puppies learn about the world through their mouths. She's learning so aggressively. She's applying chew to every object in her vicinity. Chewing is fun, and she's generalized that into every object on site immediately. This is almost exactly how underfitting works in machine learning. In machine learning, an underfit model will try to find patterns in anything, including and especially where they don't belong. It's essentially as good as guessing most of the time. Funnily enough, you can fix both cases almost the exact same way. More training with varied data and gentle correction. In the case of my dog, that means more chew toys, redirection to those chew toys, and more exposure to objects that aren't meant for chewing. For a model, this might mean ensuring you're using the right algorithm, adding more epochs, or more data. That's varied. And then there's the socialization thing, which is where it starts to get eerily similar to us being humans. Puppies have an incredibly critical socialization window, which is anywhere from like 3 to 14 weeks. During this window, every person, sound, smell, thing they encounter shapes their baseline for what's normal. If they only meet one type of person during this window, every other person they encounter could make them reactive or anxious. A model that's trained on only one type of data or similar data will fail catastrophically when it encounters anything outside that distribution. This is known as overfitting, when a model becomes too specific to its training data. This isn't something you can easily reverse either, in models and in dogs. You can't just easily re-socialize a 3-year-old unsocialized dog. In the same way, you can't just debias a trained model by heaping more data onto it. And this applies to humans in very similar ways. Your early experiences shaped your beliefs disproportionately. The things that you learned about yourself before the age of 10 or 15 is your critical training data. If that training data was narrow, biased, or traumatic, your internal model of what you're capable of is going to be entirely off its axis. Think of it like this. You are overfit to your origin data. This also directly relates to the nuance gap, which is something we talked about in an earlier episode. Generic self-help doesn't work because everyone's training data is different. The socialization window, the training window, for you is closed. You can't go back and add more data in for the 8-year-old version of you. Your childhood, your failures, the things people said to you before you had the ability to question them, those are there. Most of us are running models that were overfit to data we had no choice in, but you can learn to retrain that model if you can figure out what data it was trained on to begin with. And all of this kind of brought me back to what we talked about in episode 2, which is the ugly middle. Right now, both my puppy and I are in the ugly middle of learning. I can't see the end result of where the training is going with her. I just have to trust the process. My startup is kind of the same, right? I have to keep pushing forward, doing things that I think are right, and trusting the process. And hopefully, just like a neural network mid-training or a puppy, we are converging. We're slowly optimizing, even if it doesn't look like it yet. And the question doesn't change in all 3 cases. Do you trust the process before the results are visible? Do you keep trying to reinforce the right behaviors even when a puppy just tore a hole in your favorite sweater? Do you keep adjusting weights even when the loss function is really high? Do you keep building even when nobody's watching yet? I really didn't expect a 9-week-old puppy to teach me something about patience that I hadn't already learned from a compiler, though I probably should have expected that. But here I am, training a sentient CNN with fur. Let's be completely real. She's converging much faster than my startup. But we are both still in the ugly middle, and I think that's okay because, as we know, the middle is where the learning actually happens. In machine learning, in dog training, and in whatever you're building that doesn't look like it's working yet. What is something completely unrelated to your work that accidentally taught you something about it? The weird, completely unexpected parallel that you noticed? Don't forget to subscribe. Tell me in the comments, because I'm nosy and because I think that the best insights come from places that you would literally never think to look in. Apparently, for me, that place is a pile of chewed up shoes. See you next week. It's a reinforcement learning.
So that.
In the case of my dog, that means more chew toys, redirection away from objects that aren't meant for chewing, and exposure to objects that are what? Puppies have an incredibly critical socialization window. In machine learning, in dog training, in whatever you're building that doesn't work like it's actually happening yet. What?